It is 0 hour 30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Israel is ending its 2-month blockade of Lebanon. The blockade of Lebanon's airport ended late Thursday. However, Israeli officials said they will wait for at least 2 days before ending the sea blockade. An Israeli spokeswoman said the naval blockade will remain until an international force is deployed in waters near the Lebanese coast. Lebanese Prime Minister Fouad Siniora said he expected Israel to end the sea blockade on Friday. Early Thursday, Germany's foreign minister arrived in Beirut to talk with Lebanese officials about guarding coastal areas of Lebanon. Germany is also advising Lebanon on airport security. The United Nations has begun an investigation into possible human rights violations during the recent war between Israel and Hezbollah. 4 UN human rights experts will meet with officials from both the Lebanese and Israeli governments. They will also talk to citizens and victims on both sides of the conflict. During the war, Lebanese officials and human rights groups accused Israel of violating international law by targeting civilians. They also accused Israel of using cluster bombs, shells that release many small bombs. Israel accused Hezbollah of using civilians as barriers to protect military targets. The Iraqi government has begun taking command of the nation's armed forces from the American-led coalition. A ceremony in Baghdad Thursday officially marked the change in command. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki now controls the country's small air force and navy and one of its 10 army divisions. A United States military spokesman says Iraqi forces will control other army divisions in the near future. He said this might happen at a rate of 2 divisions a month. In other news, Al Jazeera Television broadcast a voice recording that it said was the leader of al-Qaeda in Iraq, Abu Hamza al-Muhajir. The speaker urged all resistance fighters in Iraq to unite. The top commander of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is urging member nations to send more troops to Afghanistan. General James Jones says he needs several hundred more soldiers, more helicopters, and transport airplanes. The American general made the appeal in Belgium Thursday. He said NATO was surprised by the intensity of Taliban attacks in southern Afghanistan. NATO forces have killed more than 250 Taliban fighters since the start of the offensive last week. 5 Canadian soldiers also have been killed in southern Afghanistan. The United States is reporting progress at the Six-Nation talks on the Iranian nuclear program. Diplomats from Britain, France, Russia, China, Germany, and the United States met Thursday to discuss possible restrictions on Iran. An American State Department spokesman says the diplomats have agreed to hold more talks on the issue. Media reports suggest that not every diplomat agreed on how to restrict Iran's nuclear program. Russia and China have been against punishing Iran. President Bush says he will continue to pressure members of the Al-Qaeda terrorist group. The president spoke Thursday in the American state of Georgia. The speech was his third in 3 days to deal with the issue of terrorism. Mr. Bush urged Congress to let his administration listen to international telephone calls and read electronic messages without a court order. A federal court ruled last month that such activities violate constitutional guarantees. In other news, Democratic Party members are proposing measures they say will both improve national security and change the situation in Iraq. The Democrats accuse Mr. Bush of talking about anti-terrorism measures in an effort to reduce public concern about the war in Iraq. Former Iranian President Mohammad Khatami has called for the end of the use of weapons of mass destruction. Mr. Khatami spoke to reporters Thursday during a visit to the National Cathedral in Washington. The former Iranian leader was asked about the Iranian nuclear program. Mr. Khatami said Iran has signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. He said the country's nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. British Prime Minister Tony Blair says he will leave office within 12 months. That is a full 3 years before his term as Prime Minister was to end in 2010. Mr. Blair's announcement was aimed at reducing criticism from his own governing Labour Party, but the Prime Minister resisted calls for naming an exact date. Mr. Blair has led Britain since 1997. His popularity has decreased, and more government officials say he should leave office. The British public has increasingly expressed anger at his way of dealing with the fighting in the Middle East. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has criticized the United States for its use of secret prisons outside America to hold terror suspects. The Foreign Ministry spokesman said China supports the United Nations Charter and other international laws. China has criticized the United States for its treatment of 5 Chinese held at the military prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. China was angered even more when the United States sent the 5 Chinese to Albania earlier this year. They are being held by the Albanian government. On Wednesday, President Bush, for the first time, confirmed that the United States held terror suspects at secret prisons outside the country. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour, read in VOA Special English. Israel has removed its blockade of Lebanon's airport. The Iraqi government has begun to take command of its security from the American-led coalition. And the top commander of NATO is urging member nations to send more troops to Afghanistan. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.